Do you own your own home, and has it ever interested you to buy and renovate houses on a full-time basis? Let's go Brown here. This is called Jib Tough Line, but that's not what this video is about. It's time for a Q&A. I put a post up on YouTube on the post function where you put like a photo and a description, and I asked for some questions that we could answer. It's been a while since I've done a video like this, so let's just get started. Hey Scott, would you say it's worth converting to 40 volt from 18 volt if you've got pretty much all the 18 volt gear you need? I've got a video about this. I'll post that in the description below if you want to check it out. I wouldn't change to 40 volt simply to get on 40 volt. Maybe if you're starting out in the trade and you're wanting to invest in tools for the first time, maybe just start with 40 volt if you can afford it. There's a big price difference between 18 and 40 at the moment, so you're gonna have to weigh that up. But like I said, the video's in the description below if you want to check out my thoughts on that. It seems like in most of your videos, Auckland gets a lot of rain. How does bad weather affect the timeline of a job? Yeah, do customers in Auckland just expect bad weather? Yes. Most customers want to start their jobs in spring. We actually have an issue where we have all these opportunities pile up over the summertime, and then when it comes to winter, most people aren't ready to start or don't want to start. And you understand, right? Like you start digging holes, it gets real muddy real quick, you've ripped someone's roof off, and all of a sudden you've got delays with rain and you have to keep a tarpaulin up there, you can't do any work. So it's a lot easier to get it done in the drier months, for sure. Auckland's a rainy place. We get a lot of rain. Hey Scott, how are you getting on with the Aeropress? Would you consider yourself a coffee person? Specialty roasters and all that? Now, indulge me for a moment. I'm loving the Aeropress. Promise I won't go into it too deep here, but it's what? The Aeropress, basically you put a little filter there at the bottom, put coffee in it, put hot water in it, and then you press it all through the filter into your cup. And it's just like a nice way to get kind of espresso quality coffee, would you say? Yeah, I'm geeking out on Aeropresses and I love them. And pour over coffee and all that. I'm watching James Hoffman on YouTube and getting way too many ideas. That reminds me, I have to shout out Daniel Wagner for sending me this. He obviously saw me making Aeropress coffee with the paper filters, and he sent me a stainless steel reusable filter, so thank you Daniel, that's awesome. But yeah, I'm definitely a student of coffee. I don't really know too much about it, it's like a hobby for me. Hi Scott, what is your favorite carpentry related job and why? I like finishing carpentry. I like doing skirtings and architraves, and I guess it's not finishing carpentry, but like hanging doors and things like that. This job here actually was where we did the plywood wall video. I like those kind of projects, those unique sort of 1-2 week projects. But the other aspect that I like is doing renovations that are more like restorations. When you've got like an old floor or old wainscoting and you have to try and match it with the available materials that we have nowadays, and you have to tie it all in and make it look like it was like that for 100 years. I like doing those kind of projects. Hey Scott, I know you explained how you get clients, but how did you manage to do things that you'd never done before, like the first remodel and things like that? Love your channel, greetings from Mexico. That's a really good question. That's you have to be honest. You know, if a client presents a job to you that you know you've never done before, it is best to just be honest about that. Some clients might get spooked by that and say, well, we want an experienced person, but I've been lucky in that I've had clients that that were willing to let me try the job. And again, this job here is a good example of that. I've never built a floating TV shelf before, but the client here said, hey, this is what I want, Scott. You know, this is what I want it to look like. I trust that you've got the skills to make it happen, and away I went. Wondering how often you take time off for yourself, and if you feel time away can recharge your drive and or reignite your passion. Oh, I should really get Jess here for this, but no, she's coming here soon. One thing that we struggled with was around the time that lockdown hit last year in March, we kind of got spooked because all of a sudden we couldn't work at all. We were stuck at home. I did some YouTube videos, but other than that, I couldn't go to a building site. But right after lockdown, we landed a good renovation that we got into, and we kind of stacked our schedule after that because nobody knew what was going to happen after COVID. We didn't know, so out of fear, we kind of just stayed busy. It got to a point where we just kind of worked all the way through until very recently, where we deliberately took some time off, went to the South Island, and it was for that reason. We were burnt out, and we basically needed that recharge, and I think that's important. Hi Jess.
Hi.
For these next couple of questions I thought I'd get Jess involved. Thanks for joining me, Jess.
Okay. I now feel very self-conscious.
Wow. Do you own your own home, and has it ever interested you to buy and renovate houses on a full-time basis?
Buying a house.
Buying a house in New Zealand, if you don't know. Kiwis will probably be laughing like Jess here. At the concept of buying a house here, it's not easy. It's not easy.
Yeah, it's not easy anywhere, but right now New Zealand is actually in a housing crisis.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you wanted to learn more about that, just Google it.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
But the short answer is houses are at least $1 million, and you need to come up with a 20% deposit to buy them.
Yeah.
There are other ways around it, and some people say you can get 10%. There's different things, and I'm probably going to do a whole video about this one day. But for now, we're working on it. But as you can imagine, it's not easy.
In answer to their question, we would love to own our own home, and I hope that one day we can.
Yeah. General lifestyle question: when are you going to marry Jess?
Nah.
No, I was gonna get on my knee and make a joke.
I don't know.
Jess and I aren't precious about this subject. We joke and laugh and talk about this stuff openly.
Yeah.
You're not waiting for me to.
No, I think we'll get married one day.
Yeah. Totally.
But the reality is we have other financial goals that we want to reach first.
Like the house.
Yeah.
Is a good example of that.
So yeah, I mean, I don't see why we wouldn't. I realise that doesn't sound very romantic, does it?
No.
But
there's enough people in the world.
It's just something on a to-do list.
Yeah.
That's not how I feel about it. Funny question though.
Building carpentry question. How do you price your work? Often you don't seem to know the full scope of what's needed until you start pulling things apart. Yeah, this is something I deliberately don't go into in my videos because this is a real building business. You'll see me on people's houses, and I can't talk openly about how much money they're spending for instance. It's a privacy issue.
Hopefully, leading on from those other two questions, eventually we'll be in a position where we are either renovating or building our own home, and then we'll be able to be a lot more transparent about it.
Totally.
But right now, we have to protect the privacy of our clients and the privacy of our business to some extent.
Yeah, so I know that's not a satisfying answer, but maybe one day, I guess, is the answer.
Yeah.
This is where that laundry's gonna go. Hey Scott, just wondering, will you ever expand your business into cabinet making and fine furniture? Also, is there any plans to bring on an apprentice? Well, it's funny you say that. It almost looks like I placed the camera here deliberately, but right here, I'm gonna be putting cabinets. And no, I'm not gonna expand my business to do this. I do it for this particular client, but really, cabinet makers, you need a whole workshop to produce cabinets month after month. I'm doing this as a bit of a one-off. Furniture and cabinets, they're probably gonna be things that I do on the side, maybe after we get a house, and maybe I'll redo the kitchen there, and it'll only be like on a hobby basis. And as for an apprentice, yes, it all depends on what we end up doing. If we have to leave Auckland because of this housing situation, we might have to revisit how we do the business, and if an apprentice fits into that, great. It's a big responsibility. It's not something I want to take on lightly. What are the biggest differences between Scotland and New Zealand in construction? The obvious ones? Stone. Everything's stone over there. And here it's a lot more timber based. We put timber in the ground. Would never do that in Scotland. Probably the biggest one that I noticed in my experience here and my experience over in Edinburgh was we didn't really touch the exterior of the house the whole time I was there. The exterior of the house was done with blocks and plaster, and then all our time was spent inside doing doors and internal wall frames, skirtings, flooring. But here we kind of do everything from the ground up. Hi Scott, what is your opinion on whether someone could build a house from top to bottom with no carpentry experience, just a rough idea and plenty to learn on YouTube? Well, this is a funny one because it's skill based, right? Just because you're qualified doesn't necessarily mean you're skilled, and just because you're not qualified doesn't mean that you're not skilled. Part of becoming a builder or carpenter is getting the necessary qualifications and licenses, so there's some accountability, some sort of responsibility if things go wrong. Yeah, there's so much information on YouTube nowadays that I can see somebody building a house based on that knowledge. Whether or not that's recommended really depends on the person. I've been a carpenter for 5 years or so, and I'm trying to build up the confidence to start my own business. What was it like for you going out on your own at first? I basically said yes to everything. Every little job that came my way. Friends and family, that was the first thing. I went and told everyone that I'm working for myself, and next thing you know, oh, blah 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 wants to get a carport built, or so and so wants their door replaced, and I kind of said yes to everything. And then a couple of years in, I sort of realized I have to be a bit more I can't think of a better word, strategic. You know, I had to think about what I wanted to do in my business and take on the jobs that helped me get into that. So I wanted to do renovation restorations, so I had to say no to some jobs that I was doing when I started the company, you know? You basically have to get your name out there as best you can, and you start with your inner circle and you work your way out. Hi Scott, hope you're well. I am, thank you. What is your most favorite part about filming and editing? I love photography myself, but I hate the editing too much. It's too time consuming. I hear you. The funny thing about what I do is I love the editing. That's probably my favorite part. Some days I get back to the computer and I'm like, honestly, there's no chance here. I barely filmed, or I didn't film enough, or it was a bit of a rough day, and then I sit down and then I can somehow make that into a video that I sit back and watch and go, oh, it's a lot better than I thought. And doing that cycle with every video, doing it every week, it's a good exercise for my brain, and yeah, I really like that part of it. Could you share a story about a build that didn't go right and what you had to do to fix it? This one wasn't my job. I was working for another builder years ago now. Over 10 years ago, and it was raining at the job, and it's a timber framed house with kind of, not the steepest, but a kind of steep pitch. We had a whole bunch of roofing arrive, and the roofers wanted the roofing up on the roof, makes sense, so we got them to crane it up onto the timber frame. The rain made the timber slippery, and as soon as he unhooked it, the roofing just slid off the roof, through the scaffold that was set up, through the fence, and it still had enough momentum to go through the deck of the neighbor's house. So it completely chopped one of their posts in half. The deck went like that, and it all happened in like 5 seconds. And I still remember like walking as I could hear it crashing. I didn't even look back because I knew what was happening. And all I could see was Pardo's face, and he's just going like oh my God. The way we dealt with it was, we happened to be pouring concrete that afternoon, ran next door, dug a hole, put the timber posts in, concreted it and everything, put the fence back up, assembled the scaffold as best we could, and when the neighbors got home we said, hey look, your deck got knocked down, but we've fixed it. So, ridiculous story. Speaking of Pardo, the number one question, and this has probably been the number one question since I made the video at Pardo's house. What's up with the shed? There's so many people ask me about the shed. They want to see an update of the shed. The thing about the shed is it's at Pardo's house. He finished it, but it's his house. He doesn't want me filming and putting it all over YouTube. It came out really good. He uses it all the time. And as far as his renovation goes, I haven't been there in a long time. As far as his renovation goes, he's working through it basically. He's trying to get the downstairs area back to livable, but it's Pardo's house. If Pardo wants me to film it, we'll film it, but I'm not pressuring him. Did you and Pardo play on any sports teams together while growing up? I'm not a very sporty guy. Pardo is. He played rugby, he did jiu-jitsu, he was like the cross-country runner, and I was a skateboarder, basically. For people who don't know, Pardo and I went to all the same schools. We've known each other since we were kids. Yeah, Pardo's a sporty guy, not me. Hey Scott, greetings from Ireland. Have you any tips for starting an apprenticeship? It was a little easier for me. My old man was already in the trades, and he got me a job with somebody that he knew. So that first hurdle can be difficult. Once you have that job, it really is all about attitude. What you lack in skill, you can make up for in your approach to the job. If you turn up on time, you clean, you ask questions, and show initiative, all the stuff you've heard before. One thing to remember is your boss is thinking about his client, and he's thinking about getting the job done in time and under budget. That's what he's trying to do. So if there's any way that you can help him in his day, your career is probably going to be furthered by doing that. I like doing these Q&As because every time I do it, I'm like, oh, that's another video. So I think maybe this is another video. Hi Scott, what camera gear are you currently using? I am using Canon EOS R, a Rode Video Mic Pro Plus, and this is a 16 to 35 millimeter lens. Having a wide angle lens is important, I think, for my style of videos, because you get to sort of take in the whole environment, but this one's nice and versatile, so I can zoom right in like this as well. I keep this on the camera 80% of the time. In the description below I have a list of my camera gear. They're affiliate links, so I get a small percentage when you click on it if you buy something, and it doesn't cost you any extra. So, what advice would you give to a young 20-year-old man who strongly considers being in the trade? He's in trade school at the moment. Cheers. Love your channel. One piece of advice that helped me was, when you have a building trade, you can do so many more things with it. Think of the building trade as like the trunk of the tree, and then all these different branches are the different things that you can do with that skill base. When I started my apprenticeship, I didn't think I would end up doing a YouTube channel. YouTube wasn't even around. So that's an example of like where you can go. You can do so many different things with it. So the way I realized that is I learned from many builders. I worked under quite a few different builders, and they all had different approaches. What do you like most and least about living in New Zealand? The most is access to nature. In the weekends we can go up to a beautiful beach, either west coast, east coast, amazing mountains down in the South Island, and it's relatively affordable to get there. Just really beautiful place. And least is how expensive this place is. Everything's expensive here. Apart from avocados at the moment for some reason. How do you manage your admin and estimating for jobs? I find it takes way too much of my time and it's hard to balance with the actual physical work. Love the channel. There's no easy answer for that, and I wish there was. I have the same struggles. I have long days, not just because of the YouTube videos, but that as well. Trying to come up with estimates, trying to chase up jobs, trying to reply to emails, all that kind of stuff is unfortunately just part of it. One of the benefits of working for someone else is that you don't have to deal with that. So it's one of the things you need to weigh up when you go out on your own. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Oh man, I feel like the house situation here in New Zealand has sort of capped off my plans in a way. I want to get a house, but beyond that I haven't really thought too far ahead, which is a little bit depressing. I'd like to have like a passive house. That's one thing that I want to talk a bit more about on the channel. It's something I'm learning about. I'm not an expert on this at all. It's basically an energy efficient house, a house that you don't need to spend money to heat and cool. Having a house built like that on a nice piece of land, maybe near a beach or not too big a drive from a beach. Having a workshop in there where I can tinker around and build different things and build some furniture. Maybe a dog running around. Something like that. 10 years. Maybe by then I would have gone back to Scotland a few times and visited my family and maybe done some projects there. Who knows? But yeah, it's a good question. It's fun to think about that kind of stuff. In the other video you said that you have some time left. Maybe to make it a double win, you could help voluntarily the Summery Carpenter building his house on his island. Bigger building project on the American continent. Yeah, man, I'm a fan of Summery Carpenter. I have been. He's one of the people that inspired me to start a YouTube channel. Jess and I watch his videos all the time. And yeah, if you haven't seen his channel, his recent videos, he's bought a piece of land next to the water in Canada, and it's he's starting from scratch. He's like literally clearing the trees on this land, and I assume he's going to build a house or something. Yeah, I won't be able to make it over to Canada, certainly not in these COVID times, but I'm definitely going to be watching his videos to see how that goes. Alright, make this one the last one. Hi Scott, got any stories working with your old man? My dad and I work with each other as a two-man band currently and would like to hear your experiences. You've got an awesome fan base in Hawke's Bay, so shout out to them as well. Cheers boss. Shout out to the Hawke's Bay, beautiful part of the North Island. For those who don't know, my dad was a qualified builder. He's in management now, and when he started doing site managing, he got me to do all the physical building work at his house. He had a pool, and I built the deck around the pool, and helped build a bunch of other stuff at his house as well when I was first learning the trade. He'd call me every day, "Yo, Scott, what are you doing today?" And I'd explain what I was doing and everything, and he'd always sign off by saying, "No pencil marks. Whatever you're doing, if you're building a deck or anything, don't leave the pencil marks there." I carry an eraser around with me to this day because of that. So anyway, that's the end of this exciting episode. Thank you for all your questions. I did not get to all of them. There was a lot more than I expected. I actually filed some of them away because they're probably going to contribute to some videos in the future. I'll try and do these a bit more frequently, and thanks. Catch you in the next exciting episode. Hi Scott, my name is Ashton. I hope you like the gift I made you. If you want to see the machine I used, I have an Instagram. I'll put the Instagram right here, at the Aussie Workshop. Hey. Thank you, Ashton. That is super cool, man. I gotta put that somewhere cool. I gotta put that somewhere prom. Look at that. I will check out your Instagram and thank you, mate.